Welcome to Work Week, and we're glad that we can have this panel here to really find out the nitty-gritty of what's really going on for UPS drivers and other workers who are going out in really a heat wave that we've never seen in our lifetimes.
To the door. Brian Enriquez was at work on Thursday when he received a Ring doorbell notification. He couldn't get to his phone right away, something that he now regrets. Captured on his doorbell's video, a UPS driver struggling to walk to the door and then collapsing on his porch. Brian thinks the heat got to him.
Had I gotten to my phone sooner, I could have talked to him through my Ring, but he had already left the property at that point.
As you can see, the driver is able to get back on his feet, rings the doorbell, and then walks off unsteadily. As soon as he saw the video, Brian called Scottsdale Police to check on the driver. In a statement, UPS tells 12 News, "We appreciate the concern for our employee and can report that he's fine. UPS drivers are trained to work outdoors and for the effects of hot weather." They go on to say that the driver reached out to his manager after leaving Brian's house and got help. For Brian, that's good news.
I want to make sure that these guys are safe, and with this heat, they don't have AC in those trucks. His safety is my concern.
It's threatening the lives and people are dying. So what we want to do is get your, reports on what's really happening, the conditions, the health and safety conditions, how your members are defending yourselves, and what has to be done to protect the lives of the people who drive supplies and do the work in our country. So welcome to Work Week. So Anthony, why don't you kick it off and talk about what is going on as far as trying to survive for Teamsters, for UPS drivers in this basically catastrophic heat wave that people are going through in this country and around the world.
Well, I'll go on a little bit, but I know my brothers up there have a lot more to say on this. They really work in some really hot areas. Here at Local 804 in New York City, we've had the serious heat wave. We do have, the nice change of seasons and everything like most places, but we had, because of the, New York City is known to be heavily populated, the pollution, the air. So we're really feeling the effects of the heat, especially when we get these heat waves that are over 100 degrees. And the people here on the channel know anything that's outside is at least triple in the truck. So if you're looking at 100 degrees in your truck, it's easily, close to 130. We've had a few incidents. I'll mention a few real quick. One, we had a driver in Local 804 a couple of weeks back during the heat wave, feeling very sick, feeling cramping, feeling dizziness, and he calls the supervisor. The supervisor says to him, "Don't call an ambulance. I'll be right there." Which, a veteran driver would have been like, "Sorry, but I'm calling an ambulance right now. You could come get this truck." But this driver, he didn't know he didn't know any better, and he waited. Supervisor took about an hour and 20 minutes to get to him. Really bad shape. He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to take you to an urgent care." He takes the driver to an urgent care. As soon as they got to the urgent care said, "Get him out of here. He needs to go to a hospital." So that was a complete waste of time. This kid's life is holding in the balance here. And this supervisor's, in my opinion, and I'm sure in the opinion of many others, taking this guy's life for granted. He ends up going to the hospital. And of course, they have to give him IVs. He's hospitalized. He spends the next 2 days in the hospital. And, finally coming back, thankfully, he was able to get the treatment that he needed. Another incident, driver's on the phone, same kind of symptoms. Thankfully, he was talking to his father on the phone. Father says to him, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "No, Dad, I'm not feeling good at all." He's like, "Well, let me know where you are." And the guy basically nodded out. And thankfully, he was able to tell his father where he was, and he was able to get to him in time. He was able to call 911 and get an ambulance there in time to save his son, who was also hospitalized and treated for heat-related illnesses. And it's even the inside employees. We have workers that work inside the facilities, inside these trailers that get to the same type of temperature. It's like walking into an oven. And we have many members. At one point, there was a member who told the supervisor, "I'm going on a break. I need some air." He went and got some air in the office areas where the managers are to get some air conditioning, because that's the only place you could get air conditioning, where managers are. And of course, he got in trouble for taking too long. They wanted to discipline him for taking more than 11 minutes for, just trying to get himself back into the, into focus and trying to get comfortable. And it's just out of control. There's drivers being disciplined. I can show you a grievance when I have a chance of a steward that actually put in a grievance because they're disciplining a driver for his production. Now you can't, and then on top, and I'm see the guys shaking their heads because they know. So you're giving a guy a grievance for production, and the steward said to him, "But on this day in question, it was over 100 degrees outside," and he's like, "Well, he still has to keep up a standard of production. He was OJS 7 years ago." So we're talking about a 7-year-old OJS, which is an on-job supervision when they go on the road with them. 7 years ago, they had him at these numbers where he was doing a certain amount of stops per hour. And here we are a couple of weeks ago on a hot day, and they're actually expecting this guy on a day that's brutal outside to keep those numbers up, and they want to discipline him over it. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about with these companies exploiting workers, and they're out of control. And I'll just leave it at that and leave it to one of the other fellas, because I'm sure they got some great stories in those states.
Gilbert with 657 here in San Antonio. We recently had a driver here. He had a ride along about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was out delivering in the heat. And out here, these drivers have been recording it to be between 130, 140 degrees in the back of these trucks. And he was out delivering, wasn't feeling well, starting to feel lightheaded. I might have a little bit of the story a little off, but he was delivering to the customer. And I told him, "Hey man, you're not looking well." He's like, I'm pretty much. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling too bad, but I'm making through it." Well, he starts walking back to his truck, throws up. He gets into his truck, gets in the driver's seat. Again, he has to throw up. Well, when he leans out of the truck to throw up, he falls out of the truck head first, ends up breaking his neck. Broke his nose, if I'm not mistaken, and also split his lip. And they're able to get to the hospital. But I think, in my opinion, if he didn't have that ride along, who knows? Maybe how long he'd been sitting on that asphalt, cooking with a broken neck. Because you can't, when you break your neck, everybody knows you can't. You got to really watch yourself and be careful. Because it could be a life-changing event that affects him in the long run. But in my opinion, that the way he was not feeling well, fell out of his truck. Obviously, there was symptoms that are rising up to it. It wasn't like he just happened to just feel that way within 2 minutes and just fall out of his truck. And like I said, I wasn't there, but stories I'm hearing, it's just, to me, it just surprises me on how the supervisor riding with an individual. Obviously, he's got to see changes in his speech, probably slurred speech, his vision, maybe him not walking right, maybe trying to stagger, and nothing's being done about it until pretty much he fell out of the truck. In my opinion, I think the supervisor should have pulled him out, cooled him off. Hey man, you know what? Let's stop doing the deliveries here. Let's go find somewhere to cool off. Or you know what? Hey, let me see the doctors and I'll drive. I'll finish the route for you. But to me, it's greed. They're more focused on getting these packages delivered and taking care of their customers, when really the employees here are the ones who are taking the blunt of the heat that's going around. Because regardless of how you see it, we're all getting burned by this heat, and I believe there's steps that are not being done to fix this. It's just more like Anthony said, they're just exploiting drivers, or I should say, just employees. It's just not drivers, it's part timers as well, who are feeling this heat as well in these trucks, load these trailers up, they're all about production. And to me, things need to be done to fix that. And because we've also had another driver that he wasn't feeling well at all. And I just told him, hey man, just take your lunch, clock out, take your lunch, try to feel well, try to get comfortable, even though it's only an hour and a half into your day, but just cover your bases. And if it takes you longer than an hour to feel comfortable, to me, there's no issue with that. You need to take care of your health before you start taking care of this company. And him, he sat. But he told me he was sitting in an ice box at the gas station where the beer sits at, just to cool off, and have some electrolytes and eat some fruit to get him back in the game. But that's just with these. I can't see the other companies, but with UPS, they're not concerned about the drivers. They're more concerned, hey man, why you only have 5 stops done in an hour? You usually do 20 or whatever the case may be, but in my opinion, it's like, I mean, you got to, there's a reason why drivers, if you see a change in delivery time or whatever, like a normal driver, like a driver normally runs on this route or whatever the case could be, you need to go and check and see what's the issue. Because people just don't all of a sudden just start working differently, just randomly for majority of the problem, majority of the time, because it could be something going on in their life. But again, I mean, the main thing is heat, and they're not, in my opinion, taking that seriously. They're more concerned about their production.
Shouldn't they have air conditioning in these trucks? I mean, if you're getting 120, 130 degrees, I mean, it seems like that's life-threatening to people.
Some of the trucks have dual fans. Some don't have dual fans. I mean, you turn the AC on anyway, all you're doing is just blowing engine heat right at your face. The only time that works is in the wintertime when you want the heater. But there's no AC. And you trying to have your back door open, try to get some air flowing in while you're doing your next stop to try to maybe get that air circulating, something to circulate where instead of hot when you open that door like an oven, they want to write you up for, hey man, you're driving around with your door open. It's all about them. It's not about the safety of workers.
It's Donnie out of Georgia, local 728. About in 2019, we had a driver who was also one of my alternate stewards. It was a Friday. He had about 4 hours of DOT left on a Friday because he ran early AMs through the week and then ran a route that consisted of Army base and then some surrounding residentials from that base. So he comes in Friday with 4 hours of DOT left. They, tell him that he can't run early AM. So he's like, that's fine. I get it. He goes and runs 4 hours of his route, brings the route back in the truck. And now this is in the summer. I think it was pushing 100 degrees. And, in Georgia, we have this beautiful thing called humidity. So it could be 90 degrees and then that humidity hits and all of a sudden it's 105, 106 and it's sticky and you can barely breathe. No, you can pour water on you, but you're already sweating enough. You really don't want to get any more wet than you already are. So it's about 100 plus out there. And he brings the truck back because he's out of DOT. And they said, no, we have a driver here. You're going to jump in the truck as a helper to get these packages delivered. And they're going to drive the truck. And he said, no, I'm out of DOT. I've worked 60 hours this week. I'm tired. I'm done. He even specified, I do not feel safe going back out on that truck, even as a helper, because of this heat and the fact that I've worked 60 hours this week. They said, well, if you don't go back out, that's job abandonment. So he goes back out, and within an hour and a half of just being back out in that heat, being in that truck, still going into the back of the truck, he passes out going down the steps. Kind of similar situation to Guerro. Passed out going down the steps and just lost consciousness. They sent him to a local hospital. Thankfully, they sent him to a local hospital. And he was in that hospital for about 2 days, just constantly getting IVs taken to him.
Did anything happen to the supervisor? I mean, it seems if somebody is in a very bad shape and is worried about going out, to actually order somebody to go out and then have something like that, shouldn't they be held accountable? You
would think that the on-road supervisor and that center manager that forced that driver back out would have been held accountable, but actually that on-road supervisor got promoted to a center manager, and that center manager got promoted to be a labor manager. Go figure. UPS management messes up, they just get promoted. We mess up, we get terminated. So, but that driver is perfectly okay, in great health. He actually won a feeder job where he's sitting in air conditioning in a nice feeder truck. Thank God for that. But there's been countless times I feel I'm a steward in my center, and I constantly field phone calls from drivers. Man, it's hot. What do I do? I can't. I feel like I'm having a heat stroke, or I feel like I have heat exhaustion. One thing I always tell my brothers and sisters is go find a local fire department on your route. They know what to do. They know the signs of heat exhaustion. They know the signs of heat stroke. I just hate the fact that I have to piggyback that with make sure you punch out for a break. As if the last thing on your mind when you're having a heat stroke or you're suffering from heat exhaustion is oh, let me grab my diet and let me punch out for a break. It shouldn't even come to that. But that was one story I had and that was one that has always stuck with me. I have, every day I get phone calls from drivers here in Georgia not just in Smart Hub, but in Roswell, in Ackworth, in various other parts of the state, just drivers that I know that every day they're suffering from heat exhaustion, from heat stroke. They're, they don't have enough water, because because we have this lovely 2-tier wage system, we have drivers that may not have enough money at the end of the week to purchase water. The company's not even supplying us with that water. We have ice machines that are barely usable. By the time all the drivers actually get there, some of the ice machines are out of ice. And now we have to go out there, and now we either have to buy ice or we have to find some somewhere. And we don't have cold beverages, we don't have water, we don't have ice. Most of our trucks here don't even have fans in them. So there's not even a slight way to cool off in the cab of the truck, because some of these trucks don't even have fans. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to Georgia, but Georgia in the summer is no joke. It is hot here. It's nighttime where I'm at. It's still 80 degrees, and the sun's not even out. And it's still 80 degrees.
And Mo?
I got a story about a guy that just passed out. It's probably been about a month now. He was about an hour and a half from our hub. He was delivering out to, I guess, what you would call a rural route. And the city doesn't have ambulances that would go over there. So while he was delivering, there was another driver that had seen him and had called it into a supervisor and told him, hey, this guy's not looking too good. So I think about 45 minutes or an hour later, she seen not many stops that got done. So she had asked the driver to go back and check on him. Once the driver got to him, he called her and he said, he's done. You need to call an ambulance. He was like, there's no way that this guy could keep going. She called the driver. He wasn't thinking straight. And he was like, no, don't worry about it. I'm just going to drive the truck back. And luckily, she was smart enough to tell him, don't drive. Just stay where you're at. We're calling an ambulance. When the ambulance got to him, it was a volunteer ambulance because it was so far. Las Vegas ambulances wouldn't go get him. So the volunteer ambulance had to go pick him up and then start driving down the freeway towards Vegas to meet a Vegas ambulance so they can swap him out. They basically said he was too far out. But as soon as the volunteers got to him, they hooked him up with IV, and they said his body ate the IV immediately. As soon as they hooked him up, that's how bad he was. And then he did end up getting hospitalized that night as well. And I know what they're saying about the record temperatures. I wish I had my thermometer back when we were in the triple digits. Just yesterday, I think it was only 102 over here. And I sent Anthony a picture of my thermometer. 149 degrees in the back of my truck yesterday. And like I said, that's low. We get all the way up to 120. You know what I mean? I can only imagine how hot the back of my truck gets. And back when it was 115 to 120 every day, I had a problem with my management team because I kept telling them it's getting too hot to be in the back of my truck. As soon as I touched the side of my truck, it would burn me. And I would stop delivering for 20 minutes at a time. And I told them, I'm not delivering. I can't touch my dolly. I can't touch my cart. I can't touch my truck. Everything's too hot. And they ended up putting a manager to follow me one day. And he got on car. Once he got there, once the cart got so hot, I was like, hey, I'm done. I said, I'm waiting until it cools down. I pushed it to a shaded area. And the manager looked at me and said, wear gloves. And that was his solution for me having to deal with the heat. And then I actually got a personal story myself. I had it was 116 degrees out. So I don't know what it was in the back of my truck. And I'm in one of those big brown side trucks, the step vans, the 24 footers. And I keep my keys in my pocket. And I think throughout the day, I ended up getting soaked. And I just needed a second to cool off. So I took my shirt off to kind of like dry it up a little bit. And I guess the key fell out. And once I got out, locked the truck up, I realized my keys were still inside. So I called my manager and let her know, hey, I locked myself out of the truck. She immediately started calling everybody. They couldn't find the spare key. and we had to break the truck to get the rest of the packages out because the mechanics didn't want to come out and break the lock. And they ended up disciplining me for it. And when they asked me about it, I said, hey, it was 116 degrees out. The key fell out. It wasn't intentional. You know what I mean? But they actually ended up firing me for it, for locking myself out of the truck.
And they have monitoring equipment, cameras. These companies are monitoring workers more and more. What they do, why don't they have temperatures in the truck? When it gets too hot, you see, you don't work. I mean, couldn't they do that? I mean, hook the trucks up for heat?
They absolutely can do that, but they won't because they don't care. What they actually did for my truck, like I said, I'm in the big brown truck. They actually installed a camera dead center of my windshield. And I brought the union, I brought the safety co-chair, and I brought the mechanics to show them. I'm like, when I get to an intersection, it blocks some of the cars. And I wrote it up as a safety hazard, and the mechanic said they're not allowed to touch it, and UPS is saying they're leaving it in no matter what. So, and they won't install fans. I think about 80 to 85% of our trucks don't have any fans at all. And probably the 10% that work, we have 5% that just have fans that don't work. And they won't install any at all. And I've been pushing for them to even buy us some kind of protective material. I was able to get a couple baseball tape for some dollies, but they don't want to purchase it for everybody. And everybody's dollies are getting too hot to touch as well. We're just having to put up with it.
And this is a company that's making billions of dollars, billions
Absolutely.
and billions. And it sounds like they don't want to spend money just to protect their own workers that are making them the money.
No, absolutely not. We got the same issue as I believe Donnie said. We're out of ice almost every other day. We brought that up to them. We have 3 ice machines, none work. We have a big ice cooler that is literally empty every other day. It's shared between, I believe we have over 120 drivers. We got all of preload, all of local sort, and it's not even that big of an ice freezer. And they just keep trying to blame the other people for taking ice. When I went into the safety meeting, they were trying to blame preload and local sort. No, they need ice too. They're dealing with the same heat we are. What we need is more ice. Don't blame people taking ice. Blame yourselves for not supplying us with a second machine.
And do you think there should be rules? I mean, requirements. Where is OSHA? Is it government? I mean, you'd think that these are unsafe working conditions that could lead to death and have led to death.
I'll be real quick and talk about that real fast. So UPS, a long time ago, away from the facilities, they created what's called agreement between the union and safety committees. All right, so you have a safety committee made up of employees, and then management also has some people that have on their safety side. So what we do is we try to work things out. So what happened in 804 recently was because of everything happening and a lot of the things we were asking for not being fixed. I mean, we had one driver write on his DVIR, which is when the truck has an issue that you have something wrong with it, or in the contract, it states if you ask for a fan, they should provide you with one. He asked for a fan and they said they can't give him one as per corporate. That's what the mechanic wrote on the DVIR. It kind of went viral on Twitter when this young driver, he's about a 3-year driver named Elliot Lewis. He put that on Twitter and it went nuts. You could actually find it now. And he put the contract next to it where it states we should have a fan in our vehicles. But mind you, like you said earlier, they would rather, and most said they've already starting to put cameras in the vehicles. So they rather spend the money on the all the profits they're making instead of trying to make the drivers and the employees that work inside more comfortable. They prefer to spend it on, micromanaging and using cameras that they say that aren't for discipline, but that's the same thing they said with telematics, and people were being disciplined eventually. But the bottom line is that the safety committees in 804, we pulled them all. So when you have no safety committee, because the safety committees all stepped down because they saw nothing was being done by the company on safety related issues, all the safety committees throughout our local stepped down. So now OSHA is like, what's going on over there? And then OSHA started coming to some of our facilities. So a way to get OSHA to move on things sometimes is to have your safety committees, that when you feel like when you're pushing for something, especially something safety related, and the companies just wants to have this horse and pony show where they're, handing out apples and oranges and telling you to drink water instead of, really addressing the issues, then, you do what you have to do. And I guarantee you, OSHA will come in the facilities. And it's just, sometimes it seems like the system is rigged. I mean, you're trying to fight for the benefit of the workers, and sometimes the the chips are stacked against you. But you have to have collective power. You have to have everybody on the same page, pulling towards a common goal. That's the way to get things done. When you have one person complaining about it, it falls on deaf ears. But when you have a whole local, when you have over 400 or 500 drivers, when you have other locals like what we have in Georgia and Nevada and all these other drivers from other places complaining about the same thing, something's got to be done. A young kid died in California. We haven't mentioned it yet. His name was Esteban Chavez. He was 24 years old, Steve. He didn't have to die, and nobody else has to either. In 2014, or I think it was 2015, a nice woman by the name of Janet Worley passed away. She crawled to her death in the heat. Enough is enough already. How many more people, Steve, have to die? How many more people have to be hospitalized before they do something about this with all the money that they have? I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, over the last quarter, the company had made over 20-something billion in just one quarter. One quarter. So are you telling me that it's more important to put cameras in the vehicles to monitor the drivers, which, is what's happening, or put some proper ventilation, or actually leave the air conditioning in the vehicles? So, it's like it doesn't make any sense. When are you going to try to make the employees comfortable so they can do their job and make sure that they're not working in unsafe conditions? Because the truth is, we all talk about how we try to stay cool in these trucks, and it's not just safety. It's a survival tactic. It's a survival technique to have all types of coolers with ice that you hope don't melt throughout the day. I mean, Mo's up there, and Joe and Donnie and all these guys, they're dealing with 130, 140, or sometimes even 150 in the truck. How long do you think that cooler is going to keep that ice? And then when you're leaving it on the shelf, Steve. The shelves even get hotter than the actual truck itself. Like Mo has said, he can't even touch it without it burning him. And that's where your cooler's on, the shelf. So the metal inside that truck gets so hot, and it also emanates an incredible amount of heat. So yeah, it's just every aspect of working in that kind of condition is ridiculous. It's time that they come up with proper ventilation methods and proper air conditioning that stays on for the vehicle while you're working.
And your members, I mean, they're in an impossible situation, it seems, when you have that kind of heat, and then you're told to go out, and you're basically threatened. You either go out or you're fired. That must create a lot of anger, frustration with the membership that their lives are not worth anything.
It really does. One of you guys want to take that one? Because I could go on about this.
I'll speak on that because I had that situation where they told the driver that if he didn't go back out just as a driver's helper, that they were going to terminate him right then and there for job abandonment. Which I would have loved to see them take that to panel.
Yeah.
I'd pay to see that. But the center that I'm in, we are on center manager number 6, and this center has been there at Smart since 2019. So 3 years, we've already been through 6 center managers. I mean, they change them down there like they change their underwear. And every center manager that I've had, with the exception of one, has never had a care about safety. I have shut down the safety committee in my center alone 4 different times on 4 different occasions, for heat, for not even having hand trucks for every package car. And then making drivers go run a route without a hand truck, without any kind of lift assistance, for the ice machines being broke down. And all I do is I have a co-chair on my safety committee that is very, very union strong, very, very active in our local. And I just go to him and shut it down. And he stops having safety meetings. He tells our management person that's supposedly on the committee, I guess, that we're done. Safety's done. We're not doing anything. And I have him come talk to me. I will tell you that shutting down the safety committee in your center, it actually does make this company listen to something. They will listen. If you shut down your committee and you shut down the safety committee and say, we're not doing any of it. We're not doing no demonstrations in the mornings. We're not doing those safety hours. We're damn sure not doing any observations. We're done. We're coming in. We're grabbing our diodes. We're going to go run our route. The company will immediately act because they don't like those safety committees being shut down, because that's their golden ticket to get out of OSHA coming into those buildings. That is their golden ticket, because they show that and say, oh, no, we love safety. We have our members and our employees are part of this great safety committee, when we all know that safety is only important until it gets in the way of production. And I think everybody in this group has heard that time and time and time again. I mean, and there is no safety care in the building that I work at. I got into it with a belt supervisor, because one of the preloaders was stopping the belt because packages were piling up and creating a mountain and falling off, which is a safety issue. What if one of those packages is 50 pounds and it lands on the side of his ankle? Now he's walking around with a broken ankle. So he kept shutting the belt off. Well, the supervisor would come back, and cut the belt back on, which is against methods and procedures in the building, at least from when I worked. The person that turns off the belt and secures the belt, he is responsible for unsecuring and starting the belt back up. UPS taught me that, and I got into it with the soup, and I said, if he stops that belt, he's the only one that can turn it back on. And this guy went off the rails. And I said, that's fine. And I said, let me go get the division manager, and maybe he can go over your DOKs with you. And that quickly got him moved. I don't even think he's with the company. And just for me, simply going to get the division manager about one of his own little cronies. But I will tell you, shutting down a safety committee will work, especially with those fans. Here I don't remember who was talking about the fans, but here in Georgia we had a bunch of trucks that didn't have fans, and we're getting better now. The first step was writing every truck up, order and install fan. That was the first step, writing this up in the DVIR. The second step was we went to our local and we said, you guys have got to do something about this. And we sent pictures of every single truck number that didn't have a fan. And the local would then go to the heads of the company. Luckily being in Georgia, UPS being actually based in Alpharetta, Georgia, it was a little easier. Carroll Tomei's a hop, skip, and a jump down the road. But so it was a little easier. But if your local can get corporate UPS involved, and actually if my local 728 can help your locals out in any which way, please let me know. And I'll talk to our Secretary of Treasury, Wes Turner, and our President, Matt Higdon, about that, and see what he can do to help you guys out there. But I'm doing that now. We're starting to get more fans in. And, we filing every single safety grievance that you can file on this, always helps. It always helps to turn a manager's office into a grievance wallpaper factory. Just wallpaper that office with grievances, and eventually they'll listen to something.
Well, that's the power of the union. And what is it for FedEx and for Amazon workers? What are they doing? Because they don't have a collective contract. If you threaten to go to OSHA, you may be fired on the job. Many workers are fired for going to OSHA. Is that happening?
Most of those guys have AC. I know the express driver told me they have it. It's not the strongest, but they have a little bit of AC that'll help them out. And then Amazon definitely has AC.
So Amazon has AC for their drivers, but UPS doesn't.
Even step vans. Even their step vans have AC.
I've talked to Amazon guys. You see them walk around pretty much their own uniform. Some of them walk around shirtless because it's so damn hot, and they're just told, "Hey, we don't care what you guys do out there. just when you come back to the facility, make sure you're in your proper uniform. That's what they said down here in San Antonio. And because I mean, you see Amazon, you know, walking around like a bunch of wild cowboys out there with like, you know, the tank top on or no shirt on, delivering. But you know, they're in the same position we're in. Yeah, you know, they have newer equipment, and you know they do have AC, but some of those trucks don't have AC. The ones I've seen, and I've asked them, I'm like, hey man, hey, they don't send it to y'all, you know, about coming out here with no shirt or something like that. Like, hey man, they just want package delivered, and they just said, by the time we get back to the building, we just got to be in proper uniform. That's it.
I know a majority of the FedEx ground trucks don't have them. Maybe some express trucks do. Definitely Amazon has a lot of air conditioning in their Sprinter vans. I've seen it myself, but you know, they're working so fast and they're just trying to get done so quick. I don't even think they get to, you know, get to feel it like a lot of others. But you know, you got to learn to work smart. You know, the important thing is to try to at least find a way to make yourself somewhat comfortable. It's not easy, and another thing I have to say is, you know, just because we did it, I mean, I drove a package car for over 20 years, worked inside as a preloader. Just because I did it doesn't mean that I want this next generation to have to suffer through it. You know, yeah, a lot of us made it through, you know, and a lot of us, you know, are still in it. But just because we're able to do it and maybe we weren't sick or maybe we didn't faint, so what? So that means we shouldn't try to make things. It's our duty as union members and Teamsters to make sure that we try to make things better for the next generation coming up behind us. And this is why things like this have to be addressed at this point in time, because it's just been too long. And I've heard the argument that we are in and out the truck too much. And I've heard, oh, well, UPS has been around for 115 years and they've never had air conditioning. Well, you know what? Air conditioning hasn't been around that long. You know, we did some of the research on it, and air conditioning wasn't invented in a vehicle till about sometime close to 1940. And that was just an invention. It didn't go into mass production sometime around the 70s. It's 2023. You know, let's start putting air conditioning in the vehicles for drivers, and let's get proper ventilation in the facilities for the workers. I think it's time. The time has come. It's unnecessary. There's no reason for anybody to have to suffer through these conditions. And again, there's no reason anybody should have to die or be hospitalized.
And this heat wave sounds like it's going to continue. Global warming. It's getting hotter and hotter. In a desert like Las Vegas, I mean, what is the temperature out in Las Vegas? How do you even get out there with the temperature?
Like I said, yesterday was 102, and we get all the way up to like 120, 125. It's bad.
The temps, I think, Mo, you hit like 140 something the other day in the back of the truck. It was 149 at the high.
It was actually yesterday.
Yeah, 149 degrees in the back of his vehicle. That's just ridiculous. And you know what? Our VP, we were on a show with I believe it was the Isaiah Factor Uncensored, and our Vice President Chris Williamson challenged. I'm glad you brought up her name, Donnie, Carol Tomei. He challenged her to take her desk out and put it outside into the warehouse where the workers work, and let's see how she could handle dealing without air conditioning. I mean, everybody who gets into a vehicle, first thing you do on a hot day is what? Put your air conditioning on, right? It's like, it's not even a thought in your mind. I'm getting in my car, I'm putting on the air conditioning. Well, UPS drivers and other truck drivers can't do that. So, you know, it's just, again, it's just ridiculous at this point.
And it sounds like it's like a life and death thing. If people are getting sick because of the heat, I mean, that's threatening them, their families, their whole lives. I mean, it's and feeling of workers to not be able to do anything about it must be pretty frustrating.
I don't think he's actually really that good. I mean, it's pretty much artificialized. I filled my ice chest up in the morning before start time, fill my ice chest up, go sit at my truck. And sometimes you have late air, you got to wait there for another hour and a half before you can leave. By the time you leave, I mean, sometimes the ice is already halfway melted before you left the building. I mean, there's times I've changed. I usually buy ice out on the road because I just get tired of dealing with the artificial ice. Sometimes when it's there, when it's available. And there's also times, like Mo said, you know, the ice belongs to part-timers too. It's just not drivers. And those part-timers been there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's already hot, you know, and by the time we get to work, that ice machine's not making enough ice as it is. Or sometimes they don't work. That all of them work, and we only have, I think, three, maybe four ice machines. We got about at least 500 drivers. That doesn't even include the part timers, and they're mentality is, well, it's the driver's ice. It's like, no, it's everybody's ice. You know, it's just, we're not the ones dealing with the heat. Just because we're out on the road doesn't mean it's not hot in these trailers for these guys. But I mean, I think UPS needs to come up with, with another idea than just this artificial ice machine, because these artificial ice, it don't last long. They don't make enough ice as it is. But I mean, in our building, what we are getting every week, they're bringing in pallets of water for us. I mean, I at least give them credit for doing that. But the ice, I mean, there's got to be something done about it, because I mean, I've heard from the old timers, they said back in the day they would have ice bags that come in. You know, they come in and deliver ice, but then they got tired of that because people would be putting like their drinks in the ice machines, you know, to get cold or whatnot. But I mean, it's all this money they're making, and there's got to come other ideas with better ice machines. Or I mean, even if you put misters on these fans for the part timers running these trucks or these trailers loading, I mean, there's got to be other ideas out there that could be done.
They can get somebody to Mars, or they can get somebody to the moon,
Right?
and, you know, all over the world, but they can't protect the workers who are delivering packages for the people of this country.
The technology's out there, Steve. They just prefer to use it in creating a better tracking system for their packages, in monitoring the workers, instead of, you know, actually doing something that would help their company. Because the truth is, a happy employee, you know, is going to create a happy environment, and then in turn the customers are happy. So you have a disgruntled worker out there who's busting his butt in the heat all day, and then, you know, and then all of a sudden there's an incident where, who knows, he gets aggravated and something happens because he's going through what he's going through. It's an unsafe working condition for everybody.
And is this an issue in this upcoming negotiations? You're having national negotiations next year, or starting. Should this be a high priority? Health and safety for your membership, your fellow brothers and sisters.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. As a matter of fact, we have a new app that we're using, and the Teamsters, the new Teamster app, which was I believe it was put together by the IBT. It's a great app, and it's actually asking now for the members to start, you know, documenting these incidents that are happening. I don't know if the guys on here heard about it yet. It's fairly new. It's going out there. You know, you could check it out. You could actually download the app, you know, and it'll tell you what your rider is, your supplement, what, you know, the national master agreement that we have, the CBA, and you know, you could actually start reporting these incidents and how you're feeling. And it's starting to become something that as a union, the union is becoming very aware of it. In our local, we actually had rallies on we had a rally on the 28th about it. It was the slogan was safety, not surveillance, because they were putting cameras in the vehicles, and we had drivers that were being hospitalized because of the heat during the heat wave. And also, you know, that young driver in California passing away kind of lit a fire under everybody. It's just unnecessary for people to have to be put in these kind of predicaments at this point in time with technology and the amount of money this company is making hand over fist. And yeah, so there has been a lot of talk in 2023 about what we're going to be looking for, and it's a lot. We are asking for a lot, and you know what? I'm sure the guys on here agree with me. We deserve it.
You give your lives for this company, for the people producing and getting your packages out. And another issue in California, they only have 200 OSHA inspectors for 18 million workers. Now, this is a Democratic state, Democratic governor. But if you only have 200 inspectors for 18 million workers, how are they going to inspect the workplaces? That's what I want to know. I don't know how it is in Georgia or how it is in Nevada. But I mean, it sounds like they're really not enforcing the regulations. They're heat rules. They're federal heat rules. They're state heat rules. It seems like when it comes to workers, they're not being enforced.
Well, people are paying attention now. And honestly, thank you for that statistic, because I've never heard of that before. I never thought about how many, OSHA inspectors there are in any particular area. I'm going to try to look at the numbers here in New York to find out how many we have, because I can tell you there's millions of workers here too.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think there are like 1,000 OSHA inspectors in the United States. Now, what does that tell the boss? If there are 1,000 inspectors for 130 million workers, Are you
Tell-
really
tell-
going to get?
when the cat's away, the mice will play. That's for sure. There's not enough cats to go around.
Well, we've been fighting for 1,000 to hire a new 1,000 inspectors, and especially with COVID. You know, you have a pandemic. I mean, that's the time you need to have inspectors. And like at the Tesla factory, there was a epidemic there, and they kept it running even when there was a shelter-in-place order during the COVID. I mean, the pull of Elon Musk, they didn't want to shut it down. Even the small businesses were being shut down, but not the Tesla factory. So, I mean, it shows you money. The people who have the money want to keep going and making that money, even if it's costing the lives of workers. And a lot of workers have died in factories.
I'll tell you, with these corporations, it's always been profit over people, production over people. And I have a feeling in 2023, a lot of that is going to stop. Me personally, in my opinion, 2023 is going to set something off that's going to spark a huge awakening for a lot of the people that have been exploited. A lot of the workers in this country, whether it be UPS, Amazon, Walmart, Target, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of these companies over the years have gotten away with so much with all the money they've made, and they haven't done anything for the workers. And I think the workers are starting to wake up and realize that. And I believe in 2023, if there is a strike at UPS, we're going to set something off that's going to take on a life of its own.
And it sounds like that's the time for the Amazon and FedEx and Walmart workers to get with you. If you join together.
Oh yeah,
I think it'd be a quick strike because the whole country was shut down.
We would put a chokehold on the industry for sure.
Well, that's how you have full unionization. Full unionization. All these workers should be organized.
Solidarity, really. Brother. Solidarity.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you, brothers, for joining us on WorkWeek. Oh, go on. Yeah.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I know the kid that passed away in California helped shed some light to the heat issues we have. And then we had another guy go viral in Arizona that passed out on a Ring doorbell. And we're definitely shedding light, and we have people behind us now because of it, but they're only seeing one incident or hearing of one incident that's happening. But we have people passing out daily, if not weekly, throughout the whole country.
Well, I think people need to know the statistics. People are passing out because they're not getting proper health and safety protection on the job. People in this country need to know about it. And
UPS
that's
is very good at hiding that. That's
sweeping it under the rug, buddy.
Exactly. And they have people doing exactly that, because I've known of 3 people that passed out in my center alone. And when I go ask the co-chair about it, he's like, oh, nothing happened. And then I go to the driver and find out myself. They'll just send them home. I'll take the next day off. You know what I mean? That way they don't have to report it.
Well, that's the same with workers' comp. I mean, they want to avoid liability, so that they'll try to get it. It's on your own time, or, you know, if somebody's injured, it's actually workers' comp fraud. They try to deny that the injury took place on the job, or, you know, or it's offload, have the public take care of it.
You know, Steve, we've been trying to shed light on this for quite some time now, especially this summer. And the UPS spokesperson always comes out and says, well, we train our workers to work in these, unbearable conditions. Does anybody here want to tell me about the training you've had? Because I don't know about you guys, but I was never stuck in a sauna for 8 hours just to see how I could handle it. So if anybody else here had some kind of special training that I don't know about, I would love to hear about it, fellas.
It's
pretty much special training that I know of is you call a supervisor instead of an ambulance. That way they know how to hide it a lot easier.
How about you, Gil?
The only thing I've done is, hey, do your diet, answer your questions. And pretty much I've always been told, hey, man, just answer the wrong questions on there. Because if you answer every question on there correctly, and then you go around and you end up doing something wrong, or so you have a heat casualty, well, they're like, well, you answered the question, you know, you're dehydrated, you know, you need to drink 8 bottles of water, you know. So I've always been told is on those diet tests to have you do diet training, answer everything wrong on there, because if you put 100% correct on it, which, I mean, you know the answers too. They'll turn around and use that against you.
Yeah. How about you, Donnie? How much training have you had?
As heat stuff, you know, I think we all took the wonderful Cool Solutions training that they
Cool Solutions. That's my favorite.
and they give you the a supervisor sits right next to you, at least here, and gives you all the answers for it. So
I don't mean to laugh because it's
eat plenty of fruits, drink plenty of water. It's like, yeah, we learned this in PE in like 5th grade. You know, we know you eat plenty of fruit, vegetables, and, you know, Hulk Hogan, say your prayers, eat your vitamins and whatever, you know, but every time somebody's like, oh, well, they give you guys training. Yeah, I mean, they give us training to survive in the heat, but this isn't natural heat. This is you. I mean, I couldn't imagine walking into a truck that was 149 degrees in the back. I mean, you could, I'm sure you could put a DiGiorno frozen pizza in the back of your truck, and by the end of your shift, it's fully cooked. So,
absolutely.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, hey, at least, I guess at least you got lunch, right?
Yeah. This is what we mean about when they come out and say that they're training people to work in this weather. Their Cool Solutions are exactly that. Just drink some water, have a cucumber, have some watermelon. And anybody that's ever had any serious threat of heat exhaustion or stroke, there is no amount of water at that point that's going to save you. Your body is throwing out so much sweat at that point. It's going out a lot harder than you're bringing it in by drinking a couple of bottles of water. You need to go to a doctor. You need to be taken care of. And nothing that I've heard from a UPS spokesperson as far as training has ever prepared any worker in this company for anything like that. And like you heard the other guy saying, and I'm sure they agree, nothing has ever prepared us for that kind of heat. Nothing they throw at us as training goes, besides drinking water and eating cucumbers, is helping us.
And it's a national emergency for people in this country.
And the worst part is the Cool Solutions that these guys are talking about as well. Part of the training is you can take additional breaks once it gets really hot. But as you've heard some of them say, and I'm sure they have many stories, if you take that extra break, you're getting disciplined for stealing time. Actually, I think one of them had that story earlier.
Absolutely.
So you're following their training, but now you're going to get fired.
You're caught between a rock and a hard place. I mean, that's why, I mean, there has to be a strong movement for health and safety, for protection of our lives on the job. It is a matter of life and death, and it's getting worse with this heat wave.
Absolutely.
It's getting worse.
And I feel like it's only going to, as you said, we all have to unionize and, stand together. And that goes with all of them. Any worker without AC. You know, the post office doesn't have AC either. All of us just need to get together. All the warehouses, the way that they got everybody working. It just helps showing like, hey, this is how the country's running, or these corporations are running our country.
I mean, there's so much wealth in this country. Like in California, 180 billionaires. There's over 70 billionaires in San Francisco, and they're closing down schools, and there are only 200 health and safety inspectors in California. I mean, there are more in the state of Washington. I mean, you know, they don't want to hire them. They don't want to hire inspectors. They don't want to enforce the rules because they have rules about heat and other things. You know, they don't enforce them. And that's why a lot of people die, because the rules aren't enforced. And also people aren't educated about the rules, and they don't have unions. Most workers don't have unions.
Yeah, that's right. There's I think we're at maybe 6% or 10% union density in this country now, in comparison to like the 30s and 40s, 50s, when we had a good, strong, almost 40%. It's actually pretty sad, the downhill that we went, but we're coming back, Steve. We're coming back. And I want to thank you for allowing myself and these members up here who have been working in this heat and know what it's like to talk about it a little, so that people can, you know, understand that this isn't a joke, and that, you know, there's a lot of people suffering. And we appreciate you, man.
These stories have to get out for all working people in this country to start fighting for their rights and fighting for their lives and standing together in solidarity. So thank you, brothers, for joining us on WorkWeek.